everyone. Welcome to the Awesome Day FileMaker training. I'm over here already prepping for today's activities. It's going to be very exciting. Lots going on, very exciting on this end of things. Next Tech's already answering the question, so you're not allowed to give away the answer in advance, Next Tech, but that's fine. I'm going to demonstrate that. I talked about it last week, right? And usually there's a constant one value in every record. Next Tech, that's only true if Richard built the database or you follow my Jedi in training, which we covered. When we covered this, was this Friday? We did a training this last week on preferences and how you cross-connect together, right? And I don't have that sample file in front of me here, so what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to create another table. I'm going to call table B right here. I'm going to create, and then just for fun, I'm going to create one called prefs and create it. And what happens in all these is I'm going to, just give me a second here, so we can start with a clean slate of happiness, right? So prefs. Okay. So remember the prefs demo we did last week. So Hot Air Balloon Ken had a question, right? I'm gonna say ID A, and then I'm gonna name it primary 2. This is the primary ID for A, just so we have that. It's gonna be a text field. I'm gonna say create. I'm gonna have a serial number on here. Why do I use serial numbers? Because it allows me to train people on stuff. So if I go to A and then like 001, something like that, and then I can go to B, do the same thing, IDB, primary. I wasn't planning on demoing this, but this was a really great question that came up. And the question is, Margaret, why don't you, I'll keep building. Why don't you preface and set up the question for me? Big giant softball. Read it out loud.
The question is, how do you figure out how to determine the absence of a relationship, proving or IDing the negative, if you will? Or maybe more simply, how to determine if there is not a record on the other side of a relationship.
Okay, so there's a couple ways of doing it. I'm going to show you what we discussed last week. People are like, I don't like Richard's thing. I like a Cartesian join, except the Cartesian join. Remember, Jesse, we had that conversation. You were there, Jesse. And it was all about, well, if you do this X in here, then the other stuff doesn't matter, right? Except that Claire still puts it on the dialogue like it matters, right? It's like an incomplete feature, right? They got it working and then they went, or done, right? And it visually makes no sense. That's why I don't like to use it, why I don't like to train on it. And so that's kind of what we're gonna clean this up today. So what we do to connect the preferences is in all the tables, we create a field called ID constant. And all ID constant always equals a 1, okay? We set it up to be a calculation field, probably a number field over here. We always set it to be a 1, okay? I'm gonna copy this over here. I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna go to B. Now, when you do Command-C, keyboard shortcuts, these will interfere down here. But if you want to do Command-C, Command-V, you can do it up here, but you have to do it manual, right? Like I come over here and I say, is it here? Paste here. No, it kind of got it. Not really great. So if I came over here and copy, let me try that again. Copy. Then I go to C, or press, and I hit, click on this, and I hit, oh, it does work, paste. It sticks it in there. Okay, great. So we have this right here. So A to B, okay, so this for the moment, so to anchor buoy, right? So we're gonna have a layout based on A, a layout based on B, and technically there'll be a layout that will be preferences, okay? So real quick, what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna create, but I want A and B to talk to preferences because we might have a preferences record. A could be people, B could be invoices or hot air balloons or something. It's whatever floats your boat. I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna say, I'm going to take the preferences one, I'm going to hit the duplicate button right here, bring it up here. And so then what we do is I would say ID constant to ID constant, right? And this would be, I would, it is pref, sorry, but it would be A1 or something like that, A _1 _ pref. So you have to have some way of notating. This is really bad notation, but you get the idea. Okay, so then I'm going to take this, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to come down here. So it's part of the B group, ID constant, ID constant. So what does this mean? This relationship, let me just rename it real quick. It's B. Okay. This relationship right here makes perfect sense. ID constant is always a 1. ID constant is always a 1. Will 1 equal 1? It will always equal 1. So no matter what record I'm on over here, it will always equal whatever record is over here. In preferences, in the preferences table, we want to have 1 and 1 record only ever, right? Very important. So then Hot Air Balloon King goes, well, Carlton, that didn't solve my problem at all because I want to know if I'm in A, if there is a corresponding B in there, right? Well, first thing we have to do is we have to establish that the primary is relationship's A, primary is a B, but if we're going to connect A to B, so it'll be like a one-to-many, say like this is people, and this is all the hot air balloons that they bring to the event or something like that. These are owners of hot air balloons, and they bring 2 or 3 or 5 hot air balloons. We have to have a foreign key over here. I'm going to go into fields. I'm going to go to B. I'm going to say ID of B underscore, and I do on the Mac, I hit Option F, makes a little funky curly QF, foreign key, and it's going to be a text field. I say create. Go back to relationships. Then I can connect a primary. Oh, wrong name. Sorry, wrong name. Some of you are screaming at me. You should be screaming at me. It's a foreign key. See what I did? I got all excited. I'm going too fast. That makes sense. So primary key and then any foreign keys that we need if we're going to connect it to some other table, okay? There could be an ID, CF, and all that sort of stuff. I'm not doing one for preferences because preferences we connect with the ID constant. Now, if I go back to define fields, I go to here. So, and it got crossing the streams for simplicity. I'm just going to do it like this. So we don't lose our minds about this. So we're back to A. This is A, and then it's the second relate. I don't know if I can use parentheses in the name. Probably not. Let me not do that. Underscore 2, underscore ID A or something like that, right? So that's that. So these two. So this gives us access to preferences. This one here gets us this access to create a related record. So I'm going to hit OK. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to fields real quick, and this is going to get to we're going to tie both topics into today. Today's also on lookups versus related data. So let's say A is going to contain the name of a person, okay? And let's just say that B will be notes. Does that make sense? So I'm going to call B over here notes. I'm going to say note, N-O-T-E. I'm going to create that. I'm going to go to tables, and I'm going to rename this to contacts, change, and I'm going to call B notes. Makes sense? So one person will have many notes, right? Make perfect sense. Go to relationships over here, contacts, notes, and then we'll get through this. That'll be okay. So we'll say okay. So over here we got a name. I'm going to have a little window right here. We're going to solve Ken's problem and also Margaret's problem at the same time. I'm going to pop a new window so I can show B. So this says A, but really it's actually, let me just close it. Hang on a second. Where'd it go? Hide it back up. Oh, it is still called A. Great. Whatever. All right. It's a new window. I'm going to call this one. This over here is going to be the notes. So what I'm going to do is go to layout mode over here real quick. I'm going to say in really big letters. And of course, it'll do its. Oh, there it goes. I click on that. I hit Command Option Shift and then the greater than key. Hold it down and it's like auto enlarge. Those. Copy that. Oh, copy. Paste, layout mode, paste, contacts. Okay, now, so let's just start off with this over here. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to say, just because I know it's not going to get, this one's is kind of like we'll treat it more like a little bit more like a line items, if that makes sense. Okay. Margaret, does that make sense a little bit what I said?
Well, because there's going to be multiple of them, right?
Yeah, multiple, right? So then ID constant's always a 1. So I'm going to say ID constant there, primary B, that's the notes key. Okay, hang on 1 second. Let me just fix this real quick. Just give me 2 seconds. We're doing this in flight, everyone. Notes, it's going to be the notes primary key, ID notes primary. Change. ID, what is this? Contacts foreign key, yes. Okay, great. If I go to A or contacts real quick, I'm just going to have ID contact primary. Okay. See, I was going to keep it more A and B simple, but then we got more questions along the way, so it got more spicy. So, so we say okay, and then on here I would say we have that's the notes primary key. This is the contacts foreign key right there. I'm going to normally put this one to the right in terms of importancy. importanceness. ID constant can be anywhere. It's almost like an outlier. I'm going to stick it over here on the right. Then the primary, the foreign key, if there is a foreign key, doesn't have to be one there, okay, like that. And I'm going to put over here the note, okay? I'm going to put the note here. The note will be long and amazing. Now I'm going to smash it up like this. I'm going to go to browse mode, tell it to show me as a list, new record, new record. Okay, so there's some records right there, okay? Now over here I have a name. What if I want to say, well, let's put in the notes, okay? And we know that we're going to want many related notes. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to I'm going to hold the option key, whatever it is, alt key on option or alt key, and I can drag a copy, and then it's going to say, what do you want it to be? And I'm looking for a field that's, well, it's not really there. It's through a relationship. So I could say, go to, okay, that's really messy. 1 second. Okay, that's notes, and it's via, what do we call it? It's via the ID contact underscore foreign key just for now. Hit OK on that. Yep, that makes sense now. And these are just going to be prefs. Call that prefs. Okay, we good with that? Good with that name?
I was just telling you that you should fix the B while we're at it before we come back to the same problem. Actually, that's preferences. Yeah, okay.
Oh, is that preferences? Oh, I'm sorry. Prefs. This is prefs. I got overly distracted. Okay, great. So this makes sense. So contacts, this is the related key. If we want to force it to create related records, we talked about this last week, you're going to check off that checkbox right there. Okay. So if you're over on this side over here and you have a related field like the note and you click in there and type, FileMaker will say, well, really that data goes in the foreign table and I am surprisingly authorized right here to create the related record for us. So if I come down here like this, I go related notes. So we're on that first tog, table occurrence group. I go notes. I have note right here. Okay. And this is important. I'm gonna hit this again right here. I go to browse mode. I have kin. And then there is no note. There's nothing over here. There's nothing on this side over here at the moment, right? And so if I click in here and I type once, okay, and I click out of it, FileMaker is going to go, well, I've got this text. Where does it go? It goes over here somewhere, but it has to create a related record. 1, 2, 3, click. Field cannot be modified until the item is given a full value. Okay, so what I did is I created a record and I added the primary key after the fact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the record and create a new record, because when I create a record, you get, there it is, right? Margaret, makes sense? The primary key was kind of a backwards. Let's try it again. Ken, he likes hot air balloons. Okay, 1, 2, 3, click. So it creates the related record. And in order to make it, it had to create the record one and then forcibly post the key into the receptacle right here. So it takes this key out of here, sticks it in here. If I go to field definitions, it takes the key out of here and shoved it right there. That's the same thing. That right there is this right there. Okay, makes sense? And it's a live link. It's a bidirectional live link. So if I change, he spelled balloons, it's red balloons. Red balloons, okay? 1, 2, 3, click, it updates over here. Someone over here goes, hey, he spelled red incorrectly. Click in here, 1, 2, click it back. It's bidirectional, okay? Now, Ken says, well, so Margaret, so if I'm over here and I say, yeah, I'm gonna duplicate a record over here, cancel, I hit Command D and I duplicate a record. And then I got pink balloons. He has a gender reveal on his balloons, right? And then another one, okay? So Margaret, what is the problem here? Can you articulate to me what the issue is, might be, I'm about to bring up and mention to you?
The field on the other side will only show the first created record for that relationship.
So this field right here will only show the first created record over here. If you want to see more than one related record, you would do what?
Portal.
Okay, so portal on the layout. Portal. Through which relationship? notes right here,
Yes.
this one, okay? And it's going to say, you can do a sort, you can do a bunch of stuff, doesn't matter. I have 7 rows, I hit okay. I'm going to put notes in it. That's all I need, browse. So I got note right here. I go to browse notes. So when I hit this, when I do this right here, what is going to be in here? What's going to be in here?
Only the first record?
What's going to be right here?
The first record, I assume?
Yes. So that and that effectively have the same effect, but because the relationship is going to then show you the additional related items. Okay, now King goes, that's not what I asked for. That's true, King, you did not ask for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down to like 4 related records, make it smaller. Ken needs an indicator that this person has a note at all. Now, normally the big glowing thing in here would show that there's no notes, but how do you like say if note is empty or if there's no note, right? So this is where we get back to last week, right? We're going to say over here, I'm going to create a field. I'm going to create a on contacts flag. I always like to, like anytime I have an indicator, whether it's visible or not, I always call it flags. It's a flag, like, pop a flag. No related record, okay? It's going to be a calculation. And more importantly, what kind of calculation is it going to be? It will be, I don't want to get into a big conversation on it. It's going to be because it's going to depend upon a related situation. It has to be unstored if you want it to be responsive and reliable, okay? That means that every time it runs, every time it's on screen, it's going to reevaluate, which could be painful if you had it loop through a million records. It's constantly checking to see if this is correct. So I'm going to say if, it's an if statement, right? If I'm on from the table contacts, if I check out, the context is contacts up here. If I go to the related ID of notes over here, if ID constant is it's equal to 0. Okay, that means there are no matching number ones on the other side because ID constant's 0. And you're like, you could have a flag yes or no, or I could put a 1 in here or a check, or you could do anything, but yes. The output's a text. We could make it text here. Yes. Note is here or something or whatever. It could be a 0, 1. You could do whatever you want. Okay. You could say the result is no right here. Okay. I say, okay, it's a flag field. Probably not the best thing. It says no. Okay. Did I do that wrong? Let's see. 8001. 01. What did I do wrong? If the related field is not, did I say equal to 0?
Yeah, you said equal to 0.
I screwed this up. Sorry, my bad. It's the sum. Okay, there's a function in here. Okay, here's what you want to do. I totally blew this one up. Let me do it right here, and I'm going to bring up the help page on it real quick. This is the function you want right here, okay? If I go to question mark right here, it'll pop it up. This right here returns the total of all valid non-blank values, right, from a related field. So if you're over here and you say, all you need is this in the sum, okay? SUM, and you put it in brackets like that. Total of, okay? If the total of all the related items, hang on, ID constant. If ID constant equals 1, if it's 0, if the ID constant equals 1, what am I spacing out here? What am I screwing this up? Am I screwing this up? I'm not sure this is going to work. It's still no. What am I doing?
Why are you using ID constant and not checking the ID
context? Oh, yeah, that's my problem.
Primary.
I know I'm on the wrong one now, aren't I? Okay, stand by. I screwed that up. It's because one thing is where you go to get any record, right? In preferences, and the other one is not. So I'm going to go back to field definitions. So what we're going to do is we want to go through the relationship of this right here. We have ID constant. So so the total, that's correct. What did I do wrong here? Yes,
Wait,
no.
No, I'm confused. Why would you use ID constant and not ID contacts foreign key?
If we're here, we want to see through the relationship. We want what I want. Let's back this up one second. What I want to do, and this will make more sense to everyone. I want to get the total of related records. So if I say calculation, and I'm in context, I create it, and I want it's just a calculation field, right? Like this, the sum of through through the relationship, right? Through the relationship, the relationship of the ID constant. That's what you're looking for, okay? So this is important. Forget the other one just for the moment, okay? So see, so what we're saying is go through the relationship to 1 and then add up all the ones. 1, 2, 3. There's 3. Does that make sense what I just did?
That makes
That's
sense.
the fundamental. What I did is I should have done that first, and then this is what happens, because if you can determine the number, then you can determine whether there's a related record or not. Or you could just do a search for 0 or 1, right? Like if I go to the next one right here, there's none, okay? And if I say Sam, and I say hello, then I should get 1 record. Okay, now that's incorrect. Let's take a look at that calculation right there. So you have to go here through the relationship, and then you go to the ID, the total, the sum of the ID. That's the same thing. I guess if it's, oh yes, oh, I'm sorry. The true and false are inverted. That's probably the best way of doing it. Yeah, my brain is literally processing. Because I'm trying to also bring this back to the original topic, which is the idea of, yeah, and if I have a new record, now see, that's interesting. No, so why is it blank over here? Let's take a look at the field definition again. I think the answer to this one is going to be this, is that we say, do not evaluate if the reference fields are empty. Turn that off. I'm pretty sure that will fix this. Yeah, there it goes. So what FileMaker has is performance safety thing that they do. So if the is blank, don't beat your head against the wall doing math on it, right? Except in this case, blank matters. We care about blank. So in this demo, backwards though I've gone, right, and I want to answer any questions right now, is one is connecting to a one-to-one, one-to-many. We've done not one-to-many. Well, yeah, it's a one-to-many relationship. A field by itself versus a field, the same field being in a portal. We've covered that now. We've covered the idea of ID constant as a follow-on to the conversation last week. As a follow-on to that for Ken is to determine that there are related records, there are no, or a specific number of related records. There's two, this gets back into the topic that we're going to do in a couple of weeks about going out and scripting a process. Okay, scripting a process to do something is different than this. It's similar, but different than this, right? If you were doing a search to find the ones that are empty, that's what Jesse's point. She's talking about the difference between doing a search for something and actually having it render and display the current statistics on the field. What we're doing is displaying for the current record on the field, right? Yeah, the idea is that if you were going to do in find mode, we enter find mode, right? And then you would do a find, you wanted to find for empty or blank, you could always do a search for empty, but we're not talking about scripting it. We're talking about, I mean, the scripting is what you might do after this. If Ken had a script that says, show me all the ones that don't have a related record, right? Once again, you could use Cartesian joins on that, but you saw how I got myself turned around with something simple. Try to explain a Cartesian to someone, which is this vacuous kind of weird funky thing. I mean, I guess it makes sense for more established developers, but we were using ID constants back in FileMaker 5.
Could you do is empty and related key? Is empty parentheses related key to get the same result? Someone is asking that.
Let's try it. So let's try is empty. I'm spelling it wrong because I don't want it to get mad about being a reserved word, because reserve is empty is a function. I don't want it to freak. So if I deliberately misspell it, it probably won't lose its mind too much. So I'm going to do a calculation, create it, and say if through this to the ID constants, as I say, is empty, I guess you could do, remember if I don't, okay, here's the deal. If I forget the is empty just for a second, this is a kind of important concept. If I say, Margaret, this is a test question to make sure you've been paying attention. It's an extension of the conversation. If I say if ID constant equals 1, what is that testing specifically in this scenario? I'm on it's a calculation in context going across to the notes, the same one-to-many relationship.
It's looking for one. It's looking for that only has one note. So any record that has a
you
single
get half
note?
credit. No, you get half credit, then you open your mouth and you get 0 credit.
Cool.
Someone want to try this again? You are on the right track, but I've reversed the logic here on you, right? What am I testing there? Look at that. I'm in contacts here. Let me help you out here. I'm in contacts. I can't see the relationship right here. Well, let me just do it this way. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. Okay. I'm gonna say it doesn't particularly matter. I'm gonna cancel on that. I'm gonna go to relationships, save, whatever. Give me a second. Here's a screenshot. Okay. Now, here we go. I'm here. I wrote a calculation in here. It's going through this relationship. What is that specifically evaluating? DJ's got it correct. If you do a calculation on one side of relationship through and you evaluate some value on the other side, it's going to evaluate the first record of the relationship. There were 3 records. It's evaluating the first one.
Oh, so it's not going to be able to sum up or
okay,
even
there are functions that allow you to aggregate data.
them, but that's not aggregating it because it's only talking to the first
aggregating.
one.
All this is right here is it's doing a calculation to see if the first related record equals 1. That's all it says.
So it'll only be able to find one record or no record and nothing else.
If you don't put the function in there. We put the function there, the summary function, the sum function, and we total up the number of ones. That's why it's so awesome, because with the number 1 in there, you can count the total number of records. You can say there's 0, you can see whatever, right? But if you don't put an aggregating function here, this will not do anything that you think is really what you thought was really great. Because right here, see, there's the function right there with the aggregate. It's aggregating the, you can go over to functions, look up all the aggregate functions, and it has the function called count, right? There's a function called count that will count the number of related records. But I think if you do count, it can do squirrely stuff sometimes. And there's a reason I didn't like to use it, because anytime you run into, like, here it is right here. Let's take a look and see what the exceptions are. Okay, returns the number of blank, valid and non-blank values of a field. Okay, so let me see the notes. Field return, okay, if you're using repeating fields, please hang up and call again. This is the wrong live stream for you. You need to go back to, the 1990s are calling and they want you back. Actually, the 80s for that, technically. When referencing a repeating field, field 1 contains 2 repetitions. See, they're spending a lot of time on repetitions, but it also works through a relationship. The problem is every once in a while this would get funky, and I can't remember why it would get funky, but it would drove us nuts with a little bit of an outlier where the sum function gave us was a little bit more reliable for whatever reason. I can't remember what it was. I'm just telling you, my gut instinct on this was there was a reason we would do count. Yeah, my file uses count ID, so I'm curious when it's wonky. Count is slow on a lot of records, Lynn says from Austin. That might have been it, right? Once again, Lindy, can you give us any more color on that? So, besides,
Jesse is also apparently drowning in counts, so.
Yeah. I mean, count, I understand count. And see, count can count. Listen, we go back to count here. Count will show you, it counts any related field, the number, right, of items that are there. But if they're, what does it say? It says it returns a valid non-blank values. See, here's the rub. Okay, here's where it gets, this is the spot. That's the answer right there. Non-blank values. If you have a related record, it's related, but you don't have a value in the where it's counting. Like if you targeted count against ID constant is a calculation that's always 1. So it'll be perfectly accurate. But say you use count against notes. See?
So you could have a related record that has nothing in the notes, but it was made.
So then you would say, well, I only have 2 notes, but there's 5 related records.
Yeah.
So what are you really after? Right? The question is, what are you really after? I don't give a the values in there. I want to know the actual number of related records, right, wrong, or otherwise. I need to know that number, non-negotiable. I want it in concrete, locked in steel, bolted down.
Yeah, Code to Go adds that count gets exceedingly, in all caps, slow. Plus, it will only count records where the target field is not empty, like you were saying.
That's what it says. Code to Go. I have not used. Okay, so here's the deal. When you, it's called either I have too much experience or just the right amount. Depends on how you want to look at it. I say that I have the right amount of experience, maybe more would be good. Sometimes I start to shy away from things that feel funky because once upon a time, like 20 years ago, I got burned by it or something. And I'm like, and then it's in the back of your mind, you forgot why you were burned, except it was, whenever I use count, it turned into like a painful sort of experience. Not that it doesn't work. It's just, for me, it was the non-blank values being ignored, or the blank values being, I hate when you say non-blank. Blank is a negative word, non is a negative word. So empty is ignored. Yeah.
If constant is always 1, why a calculation and not a data of 1? Wasn't the point that you needed to add the ones together?
Here's the deal. Is that's another one of those sticky wickets that you don't know it's a sticky wicket until you get into a big solution. Then you go, oh, about 2 or 3 years into it and you're importing data. He's talking about an auto enter value. And if you import records, you got to be very careful to make sure you snag and tell it to populate the auto enter values.
I don't understand. Are you trying to get it to import the same auto enter value or to have it recalculate?
He doesn't want to do a calculation with a 1 in there. He wants it to be, okay, here's the deal. Theoretically, if you had an auto enter, like if I just said, we'll call it Canberra's 1, okay? Not constant 1, it's Canberra's 1. We say it's a number field, we say create, we say option, we have an auto enter of a 1 right here. Okay? That will only fire if it creates the record in here and not always during an import. So if you import a bunch of data and someone forgets to check the box, you're forever screwed on that data set. And if no one catches it, then you have these weird outlier problems that are proliferating through your. Whereas if it's a calculation, generally, okay, here's the problem. Calculations suck when you start doing 50, 80, 100,000 records or more. It depends. Millions of records is a problem. But if you had a 1 in there, that would be probably faster, right? Does that make sense? You could time it would probably be faster, but the chances of having a down the road inadvertent error, it's like this is your captain speaking. We've taken off. The stewardesses and the stewards in the aircraft forgot to pack drinks and snacks and nuts. So you're just gonna have to suck spit for the next 3 hours until we land the airplane in Dallas, right? That's an awkward conversation, unnecessary conversation. Pack the crap in the plane. In this case, pack the stuff correctly. Then you don't have to worry about it. Right? Once again, there's people out there who deal with 50 million records, 100 million records in data sets. Most of us aren't those people here. I have 1 or 2 engineers out of 30 that do stuff like that with their customers. It's because the customers wanted it that way. So they might have to test these 2 scenarios to see which one was better for them. But I'm trying to give you folks all instructions to keep you off the rocks from crashing. So do we have another question?
No, I was just gonna ask what's a lookup? Because I mean, I hear
that's exactly where I was going. So over
I
here,
hear it talked about all the time.
Yeah. So all it is a copy paste, and we're not allowed to say the word copy paste because people think. Because back in the old days, we'd actually write a script and perform a find. I need the total of these sets of records in this like global. And we'd go to another location, another table, we do a find, and we literally copy the value, command with a script, copy it. Then we back to where we started with the global, and we'd paste it in there and go, ta-da, aren't we brilliant? And that's fine, except that if someone already had copy paste running on their computer, they copied like their resume or their death mail to their boss, how much they hate their boss, then the script would run, it could interfere, overwrite, or you could populate data about some unsavoriness in the office into a database, and then maybe it's in a transaction and it's locked and you can't get rid of it and it's there forever. So yeah, so that's copy paste. So normally we do set variables, and then we set the variables into like the truck. It's our tanker truck. Then we drive the tanker truck somewhere. Then we set out of the variable into the fields or something, right? That's how we do that. That's the effective. When I say copy and paste these days, it's meant as a slang term, right? Like when I say hot air balloon Ken is doing high speed passes at 100 knots with his balloon, that's kind of a figurative speech, because if hot air balloon Ken has a balloon that goes 100 knots, I want to take a ride in that balloon. That would be awesome. So a lookup. So let's take a look at, let's create a, Here we go. We haven't done preferences yet, so let's bring preferences into the action. New window. We're going to go to prefs, layout mode over here, layout mode over here. Just give me 1 second to set this up. Back to browse mode over here. Click it in here. I'm going to say prefs. Okay, and so let's say prefs contains a lot of interesting stuff. Let's say that it contains the exchange rate between my wife's car and no, I'm just messing with her. She's going out the door. The exchange rate, let's see, dollars to Plex.
Pounds.
Dollars to Plex. Isn't that the currency in Eve Online or something? Plex.
I think that is actually the.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that actually is.
U.S. Dollars to Plex. Plex is Eve Online dollars, which apparently are real. I mean, it's so bad that they have starships online that actually have real cost to them. I used to have a starship named Danger Wagon that my son, I paid him to get me a cool starship because I didn't play the game. He buys the game for the starship for $20, blows it up, and then sells it to someone for $5. You owe me one starship, a $20 starship. So, but it's like, 20 billion plexes or something, right? So we're going to create this number over here. So this is going to be a number field. It'll be some number, okay? I'm going to change it. Over here in contacts, let's say we got dollars to Plex. That's okay. Okay. I'm going to create a browser. I'm going to create a new record right here. No, create a browse, new record. Okay. Dollars to Plex. Let's say it's right now 0.55, 0.5, whatever. That's a number. It's an important number. That's why we have it. Okay. And then say in this database here, we're quoting our services. Like, I am happy to fly a hot air balloon, Ken, but I don't want real dollars. I want, or Bitcoin, right? Could be Bitcoin for that matter, Bitcoin, right? We want to, but I'm going to quote someone the cost, right? And I want to know when I send them a note, the cost in Bitcoin to fly the plane, okay? Fly the hot air balloon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and let's assume that in my notes, these are like quotes, maybe they're like kind of quote thingies, right? And I want to remember what the hell I promised someone. That's why I try not to lie to people, or I have a rule about that. I don't do that because I can't remember my lies. I learned this when I was like 4, 5. I figured out I couldn't remember my lies, so I just don't do it. That way, whatever my recollection is as accurate as possible, right? People are like, you're so naive, Carlton. I'm like, okay, yeah, but it just makes my life simpler. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new field in notes called the exchange rate. Now, I'm going to create it as a field over here. Normally, you could just borrow it from the other database, right, Margaret? The exchange rate from prefs, because this is the universe. Every morning, Margaret wakes up. She goes online. Let me get rid of that. Get rid of that. Make it a little bigger. Margaret goes online every day, and she puts in. Now you do this with an API, but let's pretend that I really don't. I'm very 1980 technology here, and I'm gonna put in over here in preferences. I'm gonna say the exchange rate today. It's 0.6 today, and every day now you would do this with an API. We'd go and check it, and it would paste it in here for you. Paste it. Once again, I use that word. It would use an insert from URL command to get the service, get the exchange rate, put it in here. Okay, but you want to remember what you promised the person. So on this quote over here, hot air balloon says, yeah, we got a red hot balloon. And at the time we did, I'm just going to go put some historical data in here. We had a 0.7, and then we had a 0.6, and then we had a 0.5. Now the problem is that if I put this field relationally in here, all these would say 6, and you don't remember what it was at the time you wrote the note. Dear Fred, I was looking forward to high-speed passes over 5 air-controlled towers and 1 admiral's daughter. That's the line from Top Gun, right? And but I need 5,000 beaver units and Plex based upon the current exchange rate. Thank you very much, hot air balloon Ken. He writes that note. Okay, there's his note. Would show up over here because he's managing it over here. I'm just doing the back end. But he based this note on a 0.7 level of exchange rate. Okay, this one's over here. Pink is balloon, so great. Dear Jesse, I look forward to providing all your hot air balloon services, and it'll be 4,500, whatever, okay? Based upon that. So what we have is we're having a conversation, we're providing quotes based upon financial market conditions at that moment in time. And if you go in here, because if I go over here and I say, hey, give me the current exchange rate from prefs, I go to prefs and I get the current exchange rate, which is right here. See, it's always going to be today's rate as of this moment. But you wrote the comment based upon, yeah, so ask the question.
Okay, so you'd use a lookup when you don't want the data to automatically update because the historical data is relevant to what was being written?
Correct. And I'm going to turn it on here, but the important part to understand is when you build data systems, stuff is always up to date. But like an invoice is a financial transaction, once that's been agreed to and people paid it and it's marked as done, it's kind of a legal document, right? And you shouldn't be tampering with that unless you're an organized crime or something, right? In which case that's okay. So what you would do is but right now if I create a new, so over here, let's just say that I'm going to write this note. I'm going to make this bigger here, a little bit bigger. Okay. And then what I want to do is there's my note. And then over here, I'm going to show me my related exchange rate. Okay. It's going to be right over here like that. Down here, just ugly, 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 ugly. So browse. So we're on record 3. I go back to Hot Air Balloon Ken. Here's his stories right here. You know, red, blue, blah, 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 blah. So if I create a new record right here, blah, 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 that doesn't populate. Now, every day, an API or you, Margaret, have gone over here to preferences, they'll populate this. I need this to look up in here and put its data in here as a one-time thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into here, into A, File, Manage, Database. And so if I go to, Notes, and I go to Exchange Rate, I say Options under Auto Enter Option. Okay? Auto enter option, creation date, modification, serial number, data, auto enter data, auto or calculation field. You could do it from there, but the best one, you could, yeah, but this one is the lookup right here is what I would suggest you use. So you're going to say, starting with the table notes, go and get data out of prefs and bring me back the US dollar to Plex. If no exact match, now no exact match means that like ID1 doesn't match ID1. So this is where people are like, what does this do and what the hell is this? This was specifically created by Claris engineers because I was there when this happened in 1993, 92, 93. Is that they would put, you would try to get the shipping cost for FedEx or UPS or the Postal Service, okay? And the way it would work is that you'd put a zip code in, and it would go to this other area to try to find the zip code and bring the price forward, and it would be locked in price that day because they get updated every 6 months or something or whatever. And in 10 years, the prices will be much different. Well, the problem is that you put 94531 or something, or 55122 or something, wherever zip code you're in, and it wouldn't find an exact match because all these services, they don't list every possible zip code. It's from this zip code to this zip code. So from 95000 to 95200, so there's 200 of them in there. The price is $5.31 per pound or something. Well, it says, so the relationship is the zip code. It doesn't find a match, so it can go up higher to the next higher match or to the next down to the next lower match. You're not following what I said. Zip codes. Okay.
Yes.
There's millions of zip codes.
Yes.
Probably. Well, probably hundreds of thousands.
And you're not always going to find an exact zip code match for the price you're looking for? Is that what you're saying?
So it has to go to the next closest zip code up or zip code down sequentially.
Okay, got it.
And then, so then it says the next higher up, then it can use it. It depends how they build the pricing, whether it kind of rolls up or rolls down. And then if not, if it does no match, you say, dude, or something, whatever. It's probably a number field, okay? Or you can say, do not copy. For what we do, most relationships we have, well, we kind of do the same thing in relationships. Most of the time we have an equal sign in the relationship, so you have a greater than or less than. You can, that's that kind of idea, but this one rolls up the next closest one or down the next closest one. It was created to deal with shipping, block, zip code shipping items that were in the product at the time. It's still a valid item, okay? So
that makes sense.
So let me check this. So if I get okay, I go okay, I go okay. So I come down here. I'm going to go to layout. I'm going to click on here. I'm double click the portal. I'm going to say allow vertical scrolling. Okay. That way I can scroll down to the next blank one. There's the next blank one. If I start typing in here, remember, if it hasn't created the related record yet, I have to exit out of this field or tab, and it should create the related record. When it creates the related record, it's going to go through all the fields it has to create and goes, oh, auto enter, fire. So I'm going to come over to here real quick, and I'm going to put 0.4, okay, because the price is updated, okay. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to tab, and there it is. It finished that. It jumped down the next one, and it looked that up. So that will be locked in concrete. So going forward, if I change over here to 0.333, right, I create another new one here, but those are historically protected.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense, actually.
Code to Go says that the lookup with that also works for quantity discounts. Say you like something like you buy 10, you get 5% off, 5% off. Yeah, there's a lot of areas where having it slide up or slide down is useful. Like it's not an exact match. It's literally what do they say? Close is only when someone says, "Oh, that was really close." Like okay, my wife's birthday is about. She's not here. About June 24th, 23rd. Okay, now. When I miss the birthday, which is coming up, I will say, well, honey, I was close. And she'll say, oh, close is only good in horseshoes and hand grenades and technically lookup functions in FileMaker. I'm being serious. So this is the horseshoe hand grenade conversation, right? Close is only good for horseshoes and hand grenades, nuclear
and FileMaker
weapons,
lookups.
and FileMaker lookups. Things that close is good enough. You know, a lot of what we do here, and I'm not being, and I know that's kind of a flip comment, and I get that. It's fine, but a big part of this live stream is finding the experience like Lynn from Austin and Code to Go, and some people said that the count was slow. Okay, I don't remember it being slow, but that would make sense, right? It's finding where the sticky parts of the FileMaker platform are and steering around them collectively as a group. We want to be successful. How do we do that? Here's some tools and tricks. And if there's 10 ways to solve a problem, 2 of them might be high performance or 3 of them might be high performance. The other 7 will work, but they'll have varying degrees of slower performance. That's why this group is so awesome, because Code to Go and NJ and all of you, Jesse and Nextech and everyone else who's got the comments, plus the person who's new from YouTube, but we haven't heard set, the person from YouTube.
Patient Trading and Callie Fortune.
Sally Ford. Okay, great. That's it. See you tomorrow. Bye.